came in,
Yep.
it was worded like a, it was worded like a 40,000 contingency on the proposal, and we said, that's crazy, everything else is 20. But apparently it was worded incorrectly, so Gordon just talked to us prior to the meeting.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, good evening. We'll get started here. I'll be 20 minutes late, but better late than never. We'll still get in under the allotted hour, I'm sure. To those watching at home, welcome. This is the pre-town meeting for the special town meeting to be held next Monday night, the 13th? Does that sound right? 13th. Generally, what we do here is we'll run through the articles, and there are 27 of them, and I'll pause, and if anybody has any questions in the room, or if our department head wants to take the opportunity to explain, or perhaps the Board of Selectmen feel they need to explain any of the articles, this is an opportune time to do it. I think mostly department heads and committees in the room. And Town Council is here. Good evening, sir.
Thank you. Good evening.
I'm joined at the front here, for those at home, by Brendan Loftus, Chair of our Capital Planning Committee, and Gil Ligi, Chair of the FinCom. Also in the room are our Board of Selectmen and various department heads and citizens. So, without further ado, unless the gentlemen have any preemptive comments, we'll get right into the articles.
None right now, Jeff.
We're good?
Thank you.
I'm not going to formally read them. I'll just refer to what we're trying to accomplish, and I'll, like I mentioned, I'll pause. So, in Article 1, proposing to transfer from sewer enterprise retained earnings the sum of $570,000 for upgrading and installation of wastewater pumps at the Paramount Pump Station to accommodate future flows.
Mr. Moderator, we're working with the sewer commission to finalize that number, and it will be amended on the floor at the meeting.
Amended on the floor?
Yep.
Within reason, staying within the four corners of the article, I imagine? Or-
Yes, yep.
Very good. Questions or comments on that? Sewer Department have a comment? No?
We're updating some of the earlier numbers that we've submitted, construction costs, things like that, contingency estimates. And we want to get as close to a hard number as possible, so the original number was really a placeholder. Within your framework, the guidelines are probably less than a 5% up or down amendment, percentage-wise.
Excellent. Article 2, we'll be contemplating transferring from sewer enterprise retained earnings $52,000 for the purchase of a pickup truck with a plow. Pause there. Seeing no questions. Article 3, we'll stay with sewer enterprise retained earnings account, transfer the sum of $17,650 to pay prior year bills. Comments or questions there? 9/10, Mr. Town Council? 9/10, right? We'll need a 9/10 prior year. We'll need a 9/10 carry on that one on the floor. Article 4, I believe this is a continuation of prior articles. We're going to consider transferring $100,000 from free cash to add to the salt storage building stabilization fund.
This is the third year of the three-year agreement that we had early on to fund this.
Very good. Will this accomplish our goals?
It will, and now we'll go out to bid, and we'll have a final number, and we'll probably have one more contribution.
Excellent. I'll pause there if anybody has any questions. Seeing none, Article 5. We're going to stay with free cash, the sum of $82,000 to purchase a mini excavator with attachments, and this is for the Highway Department. Questions or comments there? None? Article 6, staying with free cash, $85,000 for a six-wheel utility truck, and again for the Highway Department. Questions or comments from the crowd? None? Article 7, again, free cash, $19,000 for a John Deere 997 mower, again for highway. Don't see any questions there. Article 8, again, free cash, $135,000 for a medium-duty six-wheel dump truck, again, highway. Questions or comments there? Seeing none. Article 9, free cash, $25,000 for school zone safety equipment and signage, again by highway. Any comments or questions on that one? Questions? Nobody, everybody's shy tonight. Nobody wants to get up and chat. Article 10, again, this is the second of two articles. We did one in the spring meeting. We'll do one in the fall to fund the ambulance receipts account. We'll be transferring $349,108 to fund the ambulance account for the second half of FY '18. We've been doing this for a number of years, and any unspent monies go back into the receipts account, pays for both personnel and expenses. Any questions on Article 10? Article 11, we're back to free cash, $58,840 for the fire alarm system to be installed in the fire and police department building. Pause there. Seeing no questions. Article 12, from the fire alarm account, the sum of $22,000 to purchase the chief's vehicle. That's for the fire department. And I'll roll that into 13 as well. And 13 completes that purchase with a transfer from free cash for $19,000. And again, that's for the fire department chief's vehicle. Questions on 12 or 13? On 14, free cash transfer of $50,000 for architectural and engineering costs associated with the building of an addition to the fire department, including any remodeling, reconstruction of the existing building required by the ADA, or take any action relative thereto. Questions on 14? Article 15, again from free cash, $171,000 for 3 new police patrol vehicles, obviously from the police department. Questions on 15? Seeing none. Over to 16, again from free cash, $16,400 to purchase a new display trailer with 40-inch by 50-inch full graphics, or take any action there relative thereto, and again, that's the police department. Any questions on that one? Seeing none. 17, free cash, transferring $10,000 for continued costs associated with the treatment of Johnson's Pond to remove unwanted invasive plant growth. Questions on 17. Can anybody here speak to that, or is that? Chief? I know that's been an ongoing project.
Yeah.
You want to come up to the, hate to put you on the spot.
We started out
No.
with 17,000 originally last year. 15. And I don't know how many of you noticed, but all that, what do you call that big tall stuff? Yeah, the cat nine tails, they're all gone. The pond looks nice, and the kids are able to fish again there. They treated the pond, and all the weed is all gone now, so it's good investment.
Good.
That money will continue it's a 3-year contract we have, and there'll be some follow-up treatments next year and the following year, but the bulk of the work was done this year.
I don't know how many just walk their road there, behind the old Ann's place there. That's what Johnson's Pond will look like if we
Yeah.
didn't catch it when we did. It's terrible, it's all.
I understand the machinery they use was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I didn't get to see it myself, but I got a few comments on it. Over to 18. We're going to vote to transfer from free cash $600,000 to the general stabilization account. Mr. Aligi,
Present.
comments? Do you actually want a question?
I don't want a question, but that will bring us up to approximately $3.3 million, I believe. Is that correct, David?
I guess so.
Yeah, okay. Yep. And that was based on the recent bond rating review that the town had, where they had asked us to keep contributing to the stabilization fund.
At what point do we think that we've got enough in there?
Typically between 5 and 10% of the operating budget. We're about 7% right now,
Including the 600, or 600 takes us up higher?
including the 600, probably a little over 7%.
Over 7%? Okay.
If I could just follow up. So the free cash stays certified to June 30th, so I suspect that at the Springtown meeting, we always have a special. You're gonna take a look at, obviously, some unforeseen expenses, which we've always drawn from free cash through the spring to cover. But it's still gonna leave a sizable balance. Any thought yet of what direction you might wanna go with that?
We had talked about trying to establish a fund and maybe pay down some of the future expenses that we expect to incur. For instance, things like the tie-in to Taunton, the sewer, things like that.
I think to back up Gil, it's a surprise that we have this amount of free cash this year.
Well, it really is, it's
So-
a great management.
Yeah, so we're a little,
Did a great job.
it's a bit more than we anticipated. So obviously that there will be hands out to grab that free cash. And that will happen in due course.
You gotta stay like you have. Conservative and justify the projects. But as John said, at some point,
Correct.
there has to be, I don't know if you take a look at an article that we did many, many years ago, and I know it was very advantageous to look to offset the tax rate in a particular year with an article applying a specific amount for the 1 year to reduce the tax rate.
Right.
And I think at the time when we were able to do that, and I'm going way back, but it helped in a revenue neutral sense because at the time there were some bonds that were coming online. So it actually it minimized the impact of some bonds for construction projects that were hitting the tax rate that particular year.
And that's a very good idea as well. But I think if you read the early articles on these proposals here, obviously the highway is getting backfilled
Yeah.
relative to the equipment. The equipment was old, decrepit, and we're catching up on much-needed items, even back to John's time on the Capitol, where we had a slew of items we needed to fund, but we couldn't even think about it. I think we're beginning to backfill that, and I think you're correct with your point. I think the happy medium in there somewhere is the correct position. The tax payer is satisfied, but the town is protected from an equipment point of view.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, listen, I'm, take off my moderator hat and put on my taxpayer hat. I'm all for a robust stabilization fund, and I'm all for, obviously, going back to my days of fighting on behalf of the department heads to get their equipment and to do it in a way that didn't harm the town and was fair to all departments. I think we did a nice job with that over the years, and I think you've continued to do a nice job of that. But we've also funded a lot of debt. We've also been very aggressive in our school projects, our sewer projects, but I think it's all been justified, and I think now we're getting to the point where between taking the levy to up 2.5% every year, right, without fail, new growth coming in, there comes a time when there's an equilibrium in the town, and you say to yourself, the rainy day fund is full, there are no new debt obligations coming aboard, we've paid down everything that we can pay down, it's time to give something back to the taxpayers via a reduced tax rate.
I would agree with that. I think that with the 600,000, the rainy day is right in the middle of state recommendations, 10%, we're at 7.5%. So I think you're correct in that analysis. And yes, the tax man is next, the taxpayer.
I just want to point out also that we did not approve every request we got for capital this year. So we are, even though we had a lot of funding available to us, we were still very prudent on what we approved and what we didn't. And that also left us with a larger balance at the end as well.
Yes, and to back that up and not to elongate this meeting, the issue relative, obviously, as we all know with the capital process, is that we're not sure, free cash is not certified until later on in the process. So we are clutching at hairs early on. And there is, as Gil stated, there is items that are not, they're awaiting funding on the sidelines. There's a couple of items that I could mention, but let's not get into it now. But I think, having said that, I think you're totally right relative to the next look-see, if we have a large free cash component next year, would be to take care of the taxpayer.
These are good problems to have, to be arguing about how not to spend money, right?
Yes.
Is a
It's
good,
good, yeah.
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be advocating for it if the stabilization fund wasn't in a very good position. And to the town's credit, the recent bond rating increase was due mostly to, if not all, to the financial condition of the town, which the stabilization fund is part of, so. But you'll never meet a bond council that will tell you not to put more money away. So you have to temper your enthusiasm around what they tell you. There comes a point where they'd have you put every penny away, because obviously it makes it easier for them to sell the bond. All right, we've done that one to death. Article 19, back to free cash, $10,000 for repair and/or replacement of field signs for Park and Rec, or parking grounds, sorry. Comments, questions there? Over to 20, staying with free cash, $25,000 for the purpose of finishing the reconstruction of the Pleasant Street basketball court. So take any action relative there, too.
This is a continuation of something we funded last year as well.
Comments on Article 20? 21, free cash, $21,206 to the Board of Selectmen personal expense account for pay sick leave buyback for a retiring employee. Questions on 21? 22, free cash, $22,000 to pay for the purchase and installation of a new telephone system at the Rainham Middle School. Comments or questions on 22? 23, for free cash, $25,000 for continued maintenance and repair of the North School. Take any action relative there to comments or questions on 23? 24, $20,000 from free cash for renovations to the Gymkhana building at Borden Colony to create an office for the Rainham Animal Control Department. Comments or questions on 24?
What's the chip?
It's over by the horse ring, right? Yes? I believe so. I believe so, yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Is that an allowed use of the property? We think so? I'm gonna look at you. I know whenever we tried to do anything down at Borden Colony, the restrictions were stringent and, well, Donald, no. Stringent and unwavering.
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure what the restrictions are, other than
It's essentially agricultural or recreation.
but I will take a look at it and I'll let you know.
Yeah. Further questions on 24? 25, again, free cash, $10,000 for 2 new copy machines for Town Hall. Comments or questions there? Seeing none in 26. We're going to vote to accept some, looks like some streets. Princess Lane, Duke Drive, Queens Circle, Everything in accordance there, Mr. Buckley, does this fall under you?
Yes.
Yeah, everything lined up properly there? Oh, we got one more, 27. To accept the deed in lieu of foreclosure for property in Rainham on Cody Lane. Is this vacant land? Anybody know? Mr. King, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Michael King, Town Treasurer. This parcel here was part of a subdivision. About 20 years ago, a path was created off of Cody Lane, which, for those of you who are not aware where that is off of Prospect Hill Street by the Taunton border. And this path off of Cody Lane, which is a cul-de-sac, leads to about 75 acres of town land behind Britton Street. Since it was not originally deeded 20 years ago, in order for the conveyance to take place, taxes have accumulated. We have to use the deed in lieu of foreclosure process.
So the town's taking the path?
Yes.
Yes. Excellent, thank you. That wraps up 27 articles, folks. So next Monday night, Rainham Middle, Betancourt Auditorium, 7 o'clock sharp. We will start at 7 o'clock sharp, assuming we have a quorum, and we usually do. I encourage everybody out there listening in TV land to stop by. We're spending a lot of money, all of it justified, but we are spending a lot of money, so come and be a legislator for an evening. Any last minute questions? Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.